ATF Form 4473 and those required attachments. We get a lot of questions about this. We see a lot of different things attached to 4473s during our mock inspections. This is what's required to be attached to the 4473 upon filing. All right, so make sure that these things are definitely affixed, attached to the 4473 if you're printing them off, or if you're saving them electronically, they must be included in that permanent record. So make sure that you're including all of these documents that are required to be attached to the 4473. First thing, the ATF Form 4473 continuation sheet. This is used when 4 or more firearms are sold to one individual in a single transfer. So you want to make sure that's attached. Did a mock inspection a couple of weeks ago, and the FFL was using page 1 of the 4473 to add additional firearms. That's a no-no. He had to go through and find all of his multiple sales, all of those sales transactions where there were multiple firearms sold, more than 3, and fix those and update that continuation sheet. So make sure you're utilizing the continuation sheet and make sure you're attaching it to the corresponding 4473. That ATF Form 3310.4, that multiple sale of handguns, that's pistol or revolvers. All right, so pistol and or revolver, and this includes exchanges. So make sure that if you have a multiple sale handgun, pistol and or revolver, you are completing that 3310.4 and attaching it to the 4473 that corresponds to that multi-sale. Keep in mind that that multi-sale form has to be submitted to the ATF and their local jurisdiction, whatever law enforcement agency supports you, by the end of the business day that the multi-sale occurs. Not the next day, not at the end of the week, the same day that the multi-sale occurs. This is a citable violation. It's also one of the deadly sins. So be careful with that. For those of you that are on the southern border states, that is New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Texas, those are the only states. FFLs in those states must submit the ATF Form 3310.12, multiple sale of rifle. If you don't know what that is, take a look at the back of it. It'll tell you exactly when you are supposed to turn that form in, okay? And if you are one of those southern border states, you must attach that to the 4473 and submit it by the end of the same business day that the multi-sale occurs. Of note, just in case, you FFL Type 7s, if you are operating under a Type 7, you are not required to submit the ATF Form 3310.12. Keep that in mind. It's a unusual little nuance related to that form. Only Type 1 and Type 2 FFLs are required to submit that form. So keep that in mind. FFL Type 7s, don't freak out if you haven't been doing it. Overturned appeal letter. That's if an individual is denied and they appeal that denial and win, they are going to get an overturned appeal letter from either NICS or the point of contact state. You're going to want to get that appeals management database identification number, the AMDID, notate it properly on the form and complete that transfer if you're allowed. In other words, if it's within 30 days of the original background check. Now, keep in mind, you can give a copy of the overturned appeal letter to the customer, a copy. You must maintain the original and attach it to the corresponding 4473. Don't give them back the form. You need to keep it. All right. Corrections post-transfer. Corrections post-transfer, you're to make a photocopy of the page where the error exists, and you should attach a copy of that correction to the original 4473. So you're going to make a photocopy of the page where the error exists, make the correction, and then you're going to attach that photocopied page to the corresponding 4473. The exception to the non-immigrant alien prohibition. Now, yes, there are a number of exceptions for that non-immigrant alien prohibition. So non-immigrant alien, somebody here on a work visa, student visa, etc., can purchase a firearm as long as they have a valid hunting license. The other exceptions are few and far between, and they're very rare. The most common that we see is that hunting license. It could be a hunting license issued in any state. It just has to be valid at the time of the background check and at the time of the transfer. Okay, so make sure that that hunting license is valid. Chances are they're going to have to get an annual hunting license because they are more than likely going to get delayed. So you want to make sure that hunting license is valid at the time you run the background check and at the time you do the transfer. All right. And you know, that's really the only time you're going to see this is those non-immigrant aliens that have a hunting license. The other exceptions are just never going to happen. I've never seen one in all my years of doing this. Last item that must be attached, is a required attachment, is a perjury statement. This one might be a little bit rare, but some of you may see this if you're dealing with Ducks Unlimited, Boy Scouts of America, etc. That perjury statement. Anytime somebody is picking up a firearm for a company, organization, association, whatever the case may be, if they're picking up a firearm for an organization or entity, they need to complete a perjury statement stating that although, yes, I am the one filling out a 4473 and picking up this firearm, I am actually purchasing this firearm for organization or entity. So that'll be the last thing that is required to be attached to the ATF form 4473. Again, these are required attachments. Now, the last two may be a little bit less familiar to you all if you don't deal in those situations, but it may happen. So you just need to remember all of these different things that must be attached to the 4473. Again, that is all that is required. Everything else, put it in your buddy file. Make it a business record. Okay, so that way you have the ability to refer back to it if you need to for business purposes. One other item, don't attach that NICS status report to the 4473 or your point of contact state printout that you get back from them with regard to a background check. You keep those as business records in your buddy file. You keep those to the side in case you need to refer back to them, or God forbid you missed a character in the NTN number filling out 27B. You want to have the ability to go back to those, but you don't want all that paperwork attached to the 4473. It becomes unbearable when you're doing an inspection for the ATF. You want them to spend about 15 to 30 seconds on a 4473. We want to make it as quick as possible so they get through the inspection quickly and you get through the inspection quickly as well. And they're in and out in unbelievable time.
Yeah, Jesse, just a couple of quick items because I think we'll get questions on it. But yes, 2 years ago, before Biden's administration, ATF Zero Tolerance Program came into play, we were telling you to attach the NICS verification or NICS status sheets to your 4473s. And that was our initiative to get you guys to at least print them and utilize them for your records. But now the ATF inspectors are using those against you. Because they're not a required document. We're saying don't attach them. Now they're looking at those to see if you enter driver's licenses numbers correctly on the next check, on the background check, or your date of birth if it was correct, or if you spelled the names correctly. So they're actually using it as evidence against you to find variances and discrepancies between the form and what was actually input to NICS. Maybe as a middle initial versus a middle name, that type of thing. So again, no longer attach those to your 4473s. A couple clarifications on the 3310.4. We mentioned it here because we've had a couple revocations on this. You know, customer comes in, buys a gun today, takes it home, doesn't function correctly, comes back tomorrow and exchanges it. That counts as, or maybe the day after tomorrow. Within 5 days, that counts as 2 transfers, even though there's only a net transfer of 1 gun. It does occur. Every transfer is a transfer. So if you got questions on that, give us a call. And there's still some confusion in Texas, you guys in Texas. There was a time when, and this was many years ago, when the ATF would tell you if you were subject to the 3310.12 program. Now it's all FFLs in Texas are required to send those forms in on any multiple sales of qualifying long guns. If you need more information on that, let us know. It's not all long guns, it's qualifying long guns. But it's every FFL, not just if you've been notified by the ATF. Okay.